everyone, and welcome to Worth the Calories, our semi-final Great British Bake Off semi-final podcast.
Semi-final? Was it the semi-final?
I'm Matthew Vose.
And I'm Catherine Vose.
It is funny how they always go on semi-final and quarter-final, when it's been working down in that one by one.
Yeah.
Semi-final and quarter-final, to me, because they're used in like cup competitions, so it's where you halve the number of people each time, or the number of things each time.
Yeah, no, I agreed. Although I kind of also get why they're doing it.
I get it, and it makes it a little bit interesting, but... It was Patisserie week.
Patisserie.
Lots of French things.
Maybe.
Our favourite French baker would have done really well in this.
This would have been Manon's week. What
It
a
really
shame.
would have.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this. We had conversations with people recently about how Bake Off is reality TV. And it is. It is reality TV. It's competition that you could put in the same sort of phrase as Pop Idol and many of the other things that happen on Saturday nights particularly. Yeah. Except every time you talk to someone about it, they're always like, yeah, but it's not really reality TV, because it's not about the personalities and the drama and all of this.
No, I agreed. Although, I mean, there have been moments in its past when those sorts of elements have come in.
Exactly.
Bingate.
Well, exactly. But even them, and I was thinking this particularly with last week, there was a lot of discussion about Raoul and Manon, who should have gone out, and potentially who should have gotten Star Baker.
Yeah.
There was some discussion to be had there. But what we saw on TV, there was no Manon's told she's leaving, and she goes, "What, you mother, what's it? God, I can't believe I'm going. This is the wrong decision." No tantrums, no her making comments about the other people. Which part of me wants to say, this is one of the great things about the show, the Britishness of it, the stiff upper lip of, we take what the judges say.
Yes. Or at least the rose-tinted glasses Britishness.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we could actually claim that as Britishness nowadays, but the aspirational Britishness.
Neither Manon or Raoul are British.
No. Very true.
So it is just the nature of the show, I think. It's certainly what is edited and what we see.
Yep.
And I like that about it. But I was thinking, like, it would be interesting if suddenly one week they said, this week's episode will be aired at 9 for more mature viewers or something, and something actually happens they can't show at the normal time.
Yeah. No, indeed. And I suppose that it does beg the question to me of what is the definition of reality TV? Because I don't actually, for me, is my own personal definition, is not necessarily just TV based on reality.
No. Yeah.
There's a very big difference between something like Made in Chelsea or Big Brother and something that is a competition. Yeah.
It's the unscripted nature of it, I think. In the same way we talk about fiction and non-fiction.
Yes.
We talk about reality TV because this is not something someone has crafted for your entertainment. Like Made in Chelsea, I'm not sure I would say is reality TV because...
Augmented reality TV.
That is a very nice way of putting it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're here to talk about baking though.
Indeed.
I was just thinking about that and I wanted your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
We've commented in previous weeks about Bryony baking to our flavour.
Yes.
And doing things that we go, oh, that sounds really good. That sounds lovely. So espresso martini madeleines.
Oh, bring them on. Espresso martini anything. In fact, can I have an espresso martini, please?
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
This would be a good time for it.
Let's pause the podcast. And drink.
I'm looking at my cup of tea. I love tea. Tea is my favourite drink. It's not an espresso martini.
Not an espresso martini, is it?
Never mind. Another night.
Okay. When we do drunk bake-off podcasts. Signature challenge. 24 madeleines dipped with 2 different designs and flavours across them.
Yes, please. I quite like a madeleine.
They're okay.
I'm not sure I could be bothered making them.
No.
But I do quite like eating them.
Yeah. I think the flavours and dippedness of them, I like that idea, yes, because normally you buy them in a big like bundle, almost like rolls or something, and it's just a sweet sponge that you eat. There's not often they're not often sold as flavours to my head. Perhaps they are more in patisserie shops, but
I really like the idea of them having orange curd injected into the middle. I love lemon curd, so I see no reason why I wouldn't love orange curd as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, that bit of extra moisture in the middle would make me very happy.
It makes me think of like the blueberry muffins you get from coffee shops. That sort of idea, yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see myself doing this because you need a tray for it.
And there's no point buying that tray if it's not something you're going to do on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Aeblskiver, or whatever.
Aeblskiver.
That's the one.
We will hear more about them in a minute. Yeah, I think because it's got that extra element of chilling and freezing it before baking it to get this hump, and then the hump's important to it, and it's like, I'd rather make a cake. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think that's a general thing with you.
Yes.
You'd rather make a big, impressive, tasty cake than lots of small things.
Yes, absolutely. We've said this before. This challenge was all about how little time you got.
Yeah, so rushed.
I think
very
more
rushed.
than anything else, the fact they had to use baking powder, which made the big difference to the way they baked in the end, because you have to mix it in well and you have to make sure it's evident without being part of the flavour. I feel like with maybe 2 hours, everyone would have done this really well.
Yeah, and do you know, I'm a bit over them having problems because of their timing. Yeah. I'd rather that they just gave them a sensible amount of time and we saw what they could really do. Yeah. So I don't know if it's that they like the forced drama that happens because they give them such a restricted amount of time, or if they've only got so many hours in the day that they can film, or I don't know. I think it's probably the former.
Yeah, because an hour and a half is not a long time anyway, and the drama that they forced in there was particularly whose hump came out the best. And Rahul's going on and on about how terrible they were, and he was disappointed with them, and they looked really bad, and all of this. But his were the ones that were perfect. So like we've had over the last couple of weeks with talking about Ruby and the liquid that she used and all this, which came to nothing. Again, the conflict we saw here came to nothing. Is it just there's limited conflict and they've got to find it somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. In a round like that where no one was dreadful, although, to be fair, poor Ruby's were a bit sad. A bit sad. Yeah. But do you know, it's interesting with Ruby's. I think the problem was not necessarily the cake itself. It's that she put too much fat in the tray. Like that thing you were saying about they looked fried. Yeah, they really did.
Yeah, they didn't rise, which is interesting. And they talked about Rahul's having a great hump, even though he put the raspberries in and she put the raspberries in and didn't get it. And then Kim Joy's was too big. Yeah.
Now, the difference between Rahul and Ruby is that Rahul chilled his for 20 minutes and she only put hers in for 10.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I wonder if that temperature differential made a big difference in the bake.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe there were other differences, but that was one that I clocked from the show.
I did not notice that. That's interesting. Okay. But yeah, the hump size thing I felt was a bit... I wondered if Kim Joy and Bryony were looking for, let's have a really big hump to this and show just how grand it can be. And the judges were looking for something that looked like in a Parisian shop window. There was a sort of dissonance there. What did you think of the challenge as a whole and what everyone baked?
As a whole, I thought it was a nice challenge. I thought it was a nice start to the week, to the weekend. I actually thought it was a relatively straightforward challenge, given that it's the semi-final. But then that time pressure makes it all a bit fraught. Yeah. Overall, there were a lot of things I would happily eat there. Okay. I don't think there's any of them that I thought, I'm not sure I'd fancy that. Yeah, it's good. I think I would feel more confident about trying the Madeleines than I'm going to feel confident about having a go at that enormous technical.
Well, shall we move on to the technical now?
Yes.
The longest technical ever in the tent.
Ever.
Torta Settevelli. Settevelli?
Settevelli?
V-E-L-I.
Settevelli.
Yes, of course, it's Italian, isn't it? Not?
Yes.
Yeah. Torta Settevelli.
Sì,
certo.
Veils.
We even wrote down the layers to share with everyone.
We did.
We have 2 light chocolate Genoese sponges, a silky smooth hazelnut bavarois, crunchy praline base, and a chocolate mousse. And there's those spiral tempered chocolate on top.
Yep.
That's a lot of stuff. They had, for the longest technical, they had 3.5 hours.
Yep.
That did not feel long enough again.
No. It's going to take us significantly longer.
Yeah. And I think part of that, I feel like if we really pushed it, yes, we could get towards that, but we're going to be able to take time and let's chill it really well and then move on to the next spot.
And I suspect we'll be able to chill it in the fridge, not the freezer. Which would be good, because our freezer's really full.
That is fair. We could take out all the cake that's already in the freezer.
No, it's our wedding cake.
I do quite like this as a technical challenge. I mean, it feels very similar to when they've done an opera cake before.
Yes.
And they did like a 16-layer sponge cake before.
Okay.
And I can remember that everyone being surprised that they counted the layers.
Yes.
Like, no, you should not be surprised they counted the layers of this.
Was that the one where they cooked them a bit like pancakes?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't slicing up, it was cooking very thin layers and then doing like buttercream sponge, and then counted the layers, which is absolutely fair.
Yeah.
We talked last week about how we don't think possibly the technical matters as much as it possibly seemed to do, or it felt like it should. I think this week might be the proof of that. Kim Joy had a really bad time in the technical and still came second.
Yeah, but I think some of the focus on Kim Joy and the bad time she was having in the technical was her emotional reaction to that.
Yeah.
Because her disastrous chocolate mousse was only as disastrous as Rahul's gloopy glaze. It's just that he didn't have a very visible emotional breakdown over it.
Yeah, true.
Same with Bryony.
Yeah, because also the glaze went on at the very end.
Yes.
So there's not much filming you can do about that, particularly because, and you could see he was trying to spread it and it was just thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the rest of hers must have helped make up for the virtually non-existent chocolate mousse. Maybe that's the trick. If you can't do an element, do very, very little of it and make sure they can't taste it properly.
Yeah. And in some ways, the marbling effect that she got at the end was kind of nice.
And basically, she didn't cover it with rubber, which has got to be a positive.
Yeah.
I mean, when Bryony was doing hers and I saw the amount of gelatin she was putting in, I was just thinking, that's a lot of gelatin. That really is a lot of gelatin.
Let's see what the recipe says.
Yeah.
About 7 leaves.
That is a lot of gelatin.
That feels like what we used for the other thing that we used gelatin. The blancmange.
Oh, you used gelatin for the blancmange. I didn't make the blancmange.
I think that had gelatin in it as well, maybe.
And the marshmallow had gelatin as well in the wagon wheels.
Yeah, that had powdered gelatin. This is leaves.
Oh, okay.
But clearly their instructions were very, very limited on this.
Yeah.
In a very hard way. Absolutely expected. You could just do a bavarois sponge, just do a praline, just do a mousse, just do a glaze, and put it all together. Yes,
because clearly if it had more instructions about how to make the chocolate mousse, she'd be all right.
I'm surprised at some of them who were saying, I've not done this before, I'm surprised if you're able to make it to the semi-final of the Great British Bake Off and saying you haven't done a mousse before. That did surprise me.
It did surprise me as well. A bit baffling. And the thing is, I'm sure I've made chocolate mousse before and I haven't made an awful lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I take your point of saying perhaps the technical doesn't matter that much in the context of Rahul. But actually, I think the technical got Ruby her star baker. When you think how disastrous her first round was, and her final round, which we'll come on to, was okay, but it wasn't like, it wasn't heads and shoulders above everyone else. Yeah. But I think it's the good final round combined with the win in the technical. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I think she would have had tough competition for that star baker.
Okay. Let's move on to the showstopper, because I absolutely think Ruby won the showstopper.
Fair enough.
I think no one else came close to her. Even Kim Joy, who didn't do terribly, But we've got the filling was good and the flavour was good on another. The meringue was not good on another one was dull but had a decent flavour. Like, they were not complimentary. They were finding things to say.
They continued their theme of last week of very, very fierce judging.
Yeah.
You know, they'd never be this mean in the first... Not mean. It's not mean. It's just
hard.
Exacting is probably the word I'd use. It's you know, they are looking at everything and they're holding them to a high standard.
Yeah, but Ruby's comments were about how good the base was, how good the flavour was, how the mint comes through. It was very easy for them to make comments, positive comments about her. And
her millefeuille were very well baked.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the sort of thing when you look at the comparison, because they all did that millefeuille. You know, like hers were pretty. They were too big, but they were pretty and they're very well baked. Rahul's were well baked, but they looked rubbish. Kim Joy's were a little bit undercooked, and Bryony's were completely raw.
Yeah.
So, like, you're quite right. The bake that she produced, as well as the flavours, and you know, her shoe as well. She got that they were a good bake. Yeah. So you're right. She was better than the others.
Yeah. So the showstopper was to make a Parisian window, 36 pastries. 36 patisseries. Patisseries.
Tarts.
With 3 types of pastry. So they had to do a choux pastry, a pâte sucre, and puff millefeuille. Tough. Really tough. I mean, even 5 hours, that is tough. And then to say to Raoul, it takes a minute. You couldn't have found a minute to do that.
Oh yes.
That's hard.
Yeah. Really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard.
I'm not sure what more to say about that certainly in terms of his judging.
He's a sod.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very good, but he's also a bit mean. I mean,
yeah.
To the point where you're a bit like, is he now starting to play a character? You know, a bit like Simon Cowell used to on X Factor. That was his character as a judge. I'm sure he wasn't always that horrid.
No. And possibly, but I think it works in the context of the show. I think having someone who is hard on them, who it demands better.
Yeah.
But it is an amateur baking show. And to talk to them about, I'm going to judge you in terms of the professional quality of this, is very hard. However, they all made them too big.
They did.
And I was surprised when they were making them, and because they were all doing that, I was like, okay, maybe I've got the wrong idea about it. But again, clearly dissonance between what the judges expected and what they made, which almost speaks to the brief not being clear enough.
I agree.
You know, if they've gone and researched what appears in a shop window, which they must have done, and then come back and that's what they've made.
So just thinking out loud here, is the difference, due to our greedy tastes in the UK, is the difference between what size patisserie appear in a cake shop in UK compared to what size appears in a cake shop in Paris? Yeah.
Yeah, because they were talking about, Prue was talking about all these are the things you get served at the end of a meal. But traditionally these days it's not. It's an afternoon tea kind of cake.
Exactly.
I can completely appreciate, yes, there is a continental taste towards that, but that is not an end of a meal thing that we order here.
Yeah.
Particularly this lot, who are very good at sticky toffee puddings and Black Forest gâteaux and things along those lines.
If you look in Patisserie Valerie, alongside their extra overdraft, you've got cakes that I think, and I don't know, I've not been there for a while, but I think are not dissimilar in size to what they produced.
Agreed.
Maybe we need to go on an investigatory mission to Paris to
do
do the comparison.
Okay.
I think we could do that. Eh?
So if we do it January to March next year while the Legacy of Force is on at Star Wars Disney, we can
we could do that.
Oui. Okay. Not to my flavour as around. You know, pastry and creams and things are obviously not to my flavour. I don't think there was anything here that really called to me. And I could absolutely see that Black Forest Gâteau mousse cherry jelly thing was going to be a misstep. The obvious thing was do something really simple but really punchy. And that just had too many elements.
For me, those sorts of tarts, I feel like you ought to be able to pick it up in your hand and take a bite out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least be able to elegantly cut a piece out of it.
Yeah.
I think even if her mousse had set, I think Bryony's dessert would have exploded everywhere as soon. I mean, you wouldn't pick it up to take a bite out of it because half of it would be down your front. But, well, maybe that's just me and my eating experiences.
Which is a real shame, because the idea, if that is a dessert, is a really good one. Like, it's probably very tasty and very nice.
Yeah.
Again, speaking to our flavours.
Do you know how I'd like that? I'd like it in a little coupe dish with 2 scoops, 2 balls of ice cream, and that is the third ball.
Nice.
And then you've got your mousse on your ice cream.
Nice.
That's my headcanon for Bryony's sphere of goodness.
But all of them either didn't come out looking in the way they wanted or had some problem in the bake. There was nothing I felt that sort of went through. Even Ruby's, I think she was a bit frustrated with all the way through.
I think, for me, just thinking about Bryony and Ruby, I think the difference is that Ruby had made some very sensible decisions about what she could achieve in the time that was available and what she could achieve full stop. I don't mean they all look very good and very competent, but I don't think there was anything massively novel about apart from maybe the Verbena flavour.
Okay.
I think Bryony was possibly a little overambitious for what she could achieve in the time, and I think it's the curse of the puff pastry, like Pie Week.
Yeah.
You know, the real puff that people were doing, and they were counting on the fact of all their layers and the chilling, basically made their timing go completely askew. And I feel that, you know, maybe with more time, if she was doing this in her own time, she could have produced some beautiful puff pastry. It would have been amazing. But I think if you're rushing, rough puff is the way forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. What do you think is the decision making on that? Is it, what if everyone else has a really good week? What if no one mucks up this week? How do I pull myself ahead?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's semi-final. I've got to be different. I've got to push the boat.
Okay.
And I think the ambition and the desire to push things can lead, and we've seen this in other seasons as well. I think that desire is possibly linked with a bit of over optimism.
Okay.
About what can actually be achieved in that time.
And obviously the flavours and the structure of what she was making would have been decided at least that week, if not weeks in advance.
Yeah.
When reviewing the bakes. Do you think the type of puff pastry might have been decided that day? I had a bad Saturday. This is a thing I can do to recover. And no, I'm going to rephrase that actually. She didn't have a bad Saturday.
No.
But she didn't excel and possibly wasn't shaping up against people who were doing well.
No, I think the type of pastry had been decided previously as well. I wonder how many times she's practiced at home to time all of them together.
Possibly.
Because that's quite a long time. And I mean, you're not necessarily going to be practicing the semi-final bakes over and over again long before you get into the tent. Because you're going to be so focused on getting to the semi-final. Yeah. So I imagine she's probably only baked all of those maybe twice before last week, and possibly not all together in that 5-hour window.
It would be interesting to know that part of the process that we never get to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because we've had very little about everyone's home lives this season.
Well, we really have, haven't we? Yeah.
So it is a real shame that it didn't come off, because you can see the decisions going in there.
Yes.
That were very interesting. Doing a red shoe. That exactly like Prue said, if that can come out and it just catches the attention so well. Really nice idea.
Yeah, I think it would have looked lovely.
Yeah. But the things that other people were doing were, I think, a little bit simpler in the execution in some ways. And then it was about the decoration and the arrangement.
Yes.
So, which Raoul didn't get to glaze his. And some of the pastry didn't come together well, but his flavours kicked in okay. And Kim Joy, who again, except for that technical, sort of ran fairly in the middle, did her lean very much into how it's presented, how attractive it looks there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny, Paul kept going on about the glaze. That's the thing I hate about a fruit tart. I was looking at it going, oh, lovely. Nice fruit tart without all of that gloopy stuff on top.
Yeah, you don't like the sweetness, though.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Okay, so last week's technical was Aeblskiver for Danish week.
Aeblskiver.
We had a Worth the Calories expedition
Yay.
to West London. We visited our friend Lucy.
Field trip.
We got a risk assessment. We got it signed off by Mum and Dad.
Yay.
And they paid our £5 bus fare.
Perfect.
Let's hear how that went. We actually recorded a discussion about it. We used a digital recorder just on the table, so there was a bit of echoing and a bit of background noise and so on, but I think you'll all enjoy the discussion. Okay, so we have a new guest for our technical challenges. We have Lucy joining us, who is the person who introduced us to Bake Off. Which is why it's very exciting to have you come and talk to us.
I hadn't realised I wasn't the person that introduced you to Bake Off.
Yeah, I think we sort of caught it and knew what it was, but I can remember being in a pub with you and you going, you haven't watched Bake Off, you must watch Bake Off. Let me tell you about Bingate.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah, because we came to Bake Off really quite late, I think, after that conversation. And then we binged watched it all from the BBC website.
Yeah.
I literally remember there was about a month where we mainly sat in our basement lounge in Clapham, binge watching from season 1.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah, Bingate had just happened when you told us about it, which I think was the peak for Bake Off. This was an exciting, actual dramatic moment.
It drew a lot of people in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there were conversations to be had finally. It wasn't just, baking is fun if you like baking. There's drama, it's reality TV. And then, we watched season 6. And then we got lots of vouchers from Amazon because they were doing vouchers if you don't do Prime shipping. And I had enough vouchers to buy all of Bake Off off Amazon. So we bought all of it and watched it on your recommendation. And now we bake it every week because we quite like it. So this week we made Aeblskiver.
We did.
Aeblskiver.
Aeblskiver. No idea what the correct pronunciation is.
I feel a little bit like the Swedish chef in the Muppets.
But a Danish chef.
Exactly, a Danish chef.
We 3 main components to it: making a batter and cooking a batter, making a strawberry jam, making a what was the other? All cinnamon apple.
Cinnamon apple. I was quite surprised how batter-like the batter was, which may sound like a very silly thing, but I think when you watched it, it looked like it might have been more sort of donutty, perhaps a little more bready. Whereas actually it was very batter-like. Yeah.
I wonder is it that the people we saw had done it more? Was it thicker?
Maybe.
Because they had a mixed range of things.
They did,
How did you find the making of it? We're going to come to the cooking, I think, as a separate thing, maybe.
Okay.
But making batter was...
Yeah, I think it was fairly straightforward, to be honest. There were lots of different stages for what essentially was a relatively simple batter. Yeah. I think if I did it again, I would probably... Things like melt the butter, in the same pot that I'd use for something else, for example. So then I would know, I want to use less things in the kitchen, so I would have known what was coming up.
Do you think it would make a difference if you actually just bungle the batter ingredients together and whisk them up?
Do you know what? I did have that thought. I wondered if we stuck it all in a Magimix and then just whipped up the egg whites separately and added it in, would it make a difference? I'm inclined to say no. Yeah,
probably not at all. Probably wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'd be fine.
Doing up the egg whites, yes, that's the thing, and then folding them in so you don't lose the air is the only difference to it. So.
Yeah, agreed.
But we have found that I think with the technical challenges, it takes a lot of bowls, it takes a lot of different bits to it. Yeah,
it takes a lot of washing up.
Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. And then we had to cook them. Them in an Aeblskiver pan. So we bought a 7-hold frying pan. It's basically like a muffin tray, but as an iron frying pan.
It is a dedicated tool just for that specific job. So it is an Aeblskiver pan.
Which luckily you can get fairly cost effectively from Amazon.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Other retailers are available.
Exactly. But I was quite impressed that you can, what did we spend? £16.99?
16 quid, yeah, something like that.
That's not too bad, given that when we were looking for the marmoule moulds, Amazon was not producing them for less than £25? No. Something like that. And you very recently found a marmoule mould for $1.99 in a London supermarket. Yeah. So
sounds like there's a bit of a market there for you to...
Clearly I should go and stock up one day.
Second income stream.
Exactly.
So we had wooden skewers.
Yeah.
And you turn it. Turning is not the right word. You're not turning it.
You're sort of rotating it slightly, aren't you? I found it interesting because I cooked it on a gas hob, and obviously a gas hob has a kind of a grill, for want of a better word, that sits over the flame, and the Aeblskiver pan didn't quite sit. There was only one position it would sit in without falling through one of those holes. So
it wasn't a very big pan, was it?
No, it wasn't. So I think if I did it again, I would get one of those sort of connector things that joins up the holes in your gas hob, so you don't have so much of a problem. Or maybe I should have put a sheet of tin foil over it or something like that, just to help with it.
Trying to even out a bit as well.
But, no, it was definitely an interesting exercise.
The recipe I'd seen before we did the baking talked about putting vegetable oil in the Aeblskiver holes.
Okay.
Whereas this recipe was about the butter, and I found it really did cook really quickly in the way the butter does. And I don't think we ever quite got to this is the right temperature to keep it at, and let's work with this. It was always bit up, bit down, always cooking a bit fast, always not quite cooking enough. It just, I found that really hard to gauge at times.
I thought the butter was nice because it gave it a nice nutty kind of flavour. I think oil would have given a very different flavour at the end. It would have probably tasted more donutty, I suspect, if we used oil rather than butter.
Probably so. Yeah, I could definitely see that the butter went a sort of brownie as it was cooking before you poured the batter in.
I think butter catches a bit quicker.
Yeah.
It was tasty though. It's like cooking salmon in butter.
Yeah.
You know it's bad for you. You know it's going to catch quicker, but it still tastes good.
Lucy, you made the cinnamon apple filling
I
mix
did,
thing.
yes.
We got to use a lathe. We got to see a lathe in action.
We did.
With your permission, I will post a picture of that on Instagram because that was good fun.
Yeah, I love my apple lathe. It does have a different name, but I forget what it is. It's essentially a lathe. You put an apple on it, peels, cores and chops it.
It was amazing. I never knew such a thing existed.
It's wonderful, particularly when you have a glass of apples in the autumn.
Yeah.
I found the making of the apple thing relatively straightforward. Huge amount of cinnamon, more than I would have thought. And also the addition of the corn flour was interesting. It did say to add water if your apple dried out. I ended up adding water at the end because the corn flour addition to the apples had made it quite gelatinous.
Okay.
And it ended up looking a bit like a jelly.
Right.
A very thick jelly, albeit. I added some water in and it seemed to loosen it a little bit. But I'm still not sure I quite got the consistency of that spot on. Not quite sure what I was trying to go for.
No, having not seen it as well.
Exactly.
Is it possible it's almost designed to be that bit thicker so that when you put it in the batter as you're doing your rotation turn bit, it just goes in as one solid thing?
Yeah,
a little bit easier maybe. But then it would be heavier, so it absolutely would be on one side of the Aeblskiver.
I think you wouldn't want it too light because you wouldn't want it mixing with the batter.
Exactly. It needs to be a centred core. I think there's going to be a lot. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with experimenting with centres for the little donut balls.
Oh, definitely. I could see chocolate ganache frozen into very small balls,
tiny truffles inside. Yeah.
So then, as it cooks, it doesn't fully melt, but you just get that goo in the middle. I think that could be quite good.
I'm still just obsessing about the idea of getting some kind of soft salted caramel in the middle there,
or Nutella.
Or Nutella.
Yeah, I like the idea of having it ready in a fixed size, like a ball of any of these. You could just do in lots of balls and freeze them, so that you're not mixing it as it goes in, and it's.
Maybe with a very, if we could get a very small size of melon baller. Yeah. And then to ball up the Nutella and then freeze it a little bit or chill it very hard a little bit in the ball to drop in whilst it's cooking.
That's it. We'll do that next week.
I quite like your idea about the savoury ones.
Oh yes, a bit of cheese in the middle, bring it on. That would be an amazing starter. A bit of cheese, a bit of ham, maybe, yeah.
Because the interesting thing about the batter was it wasn't sweet.
No.
It was I don't want to say a tasteless batter, but it could have gone either way. Because it had salt in it, it had sugar in it. And I think the filling just picked out whichever one of those was most appropriate.
Like bread. It was a background. It was a background flavour. It was a frame for whatever filling was put in there.
The other component was jam, which was jam, slightly runny jam that came through. I think in the end, I mean, the jam was jam, but it actually detracted from it overpowered the taste. I wasn't too fond of dipping it in because I then didn't taste my Aeblskiver.
I agree. I actually think the jam was probably too sweet, and I possibly wouldn't have chosen strawberry for it. I think if the filling hadn't been another fruit, if it had been a chocolate filling, I would have perhaps put a raspberry compote with it, for example. If it had been I think that the apple filling would have gone quite well with a very sort of thin sort of creme anglaise type dip. That might have been quite nice. But sort of apple with a strawberry for me, I think was a bit too much, a bit sweet and overpowering. Tasty nonetheless. Every component part was very, very tasty. And I could eat bowls of ice cream with that strawberry sauce over it quite happily.
Or you can make a nice strawberry ripple with the puree, couldn't you?
I almost feel that actually the Aeblskiver would have done better with the dipping sauce if it just didn't have a filling. And if this dipping sauce was the additional flavour and it was just a plain donut. Or that if, because we reserved the sieved bits of strawberry in the sieve and put them in a little ramekin. And actually I was using that instead of the dipping sauce for some of it. Putting that in the middle. Almost like a proper jam donut. That could have been really tasty.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I do like having something in the middle, but I could see also, you serve it with a pot of custard, a pot of salted caramel, a pot of the jam or something, and you can dip and choose what you spread over them. So we also tried chocolate in the middle.
Oh yeah.
On the second batch, I mean, we were like, let's just try maybe possibly. That was better, I think.
That was a bit of a
revelation. It really worked. Yeah.
It was good.
And it was just chocolate shavings, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chocolate.
Yeah. I like that because they come out, they're so hot and then it's a bit gooey and a bit runny as well. And that was nice.
So I think going back to your point about the turning / rotating, it was very odd, sort of just putting these sticks in, for want of a better expression, and sort of pulling it up, not knowing quite whether it was going to break in half because it wasn't quite cooked. Or whether it was. There was a very fine line, it seemed, between being able to rotate it and it just being liquid everywhere. And there also seemed to be quite a fine line when once you had rotated it, getting it over quick enough so that you actually had the ball shape rather than I think some of mine came out more like a clam shape.
Okay.
Can't see what I'm doing here with my hands, but I'm making a clam shape.
But it looks good, guys.
And it just allowed you that little window to peek into the filling, which I don't think was the intention. I think the intention is for it to be nice ball.
Yeah, do it quick enough to sort of seal it into a thing. And it's kind of funny because we've got this elaborate pan designed for Aeblskiver. Oh, and use some wooden skewers for the technique. Just random wooden skewers. There's no Aeblskiver turning device or something.
You know what I think would be interesting to see is how they would turn out if you used a cake pop maker. So there's little electric things that you can get, which is essentially a hot plate on the side, and you rotate the actual thing halfway through.
Okay.
Yeah,
they'd probably be like a nice, not quite cakey, but a bit kind of a little bready donut pancake thing.
Yeah, but again, if you were going to do it without a filling, clearly, I
that
reckon
would be too much.
that could actually work as a relatively easy, foolproof way to do the domes without spiking the wrong bit at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'd like? I'd like to see Paul Hollywood making it.
I think that every single week, every time he has a derogatory comment about something, I think I'd really like to see you make that under those time conditions.
Yeah.
Because the time conditions, I think, is often the harsh thing about some of these, well, all of the exercises really. I mean, how long did they get to make their Aeblskiver?
I think it might have been an hour and a half, but that feels almost too long. So maybe it was only an hour.
I thought it was. Well,
Maybe it was only 45 minutes.
The recipe says 45 minutes.
Mm.
But I think the recipes that they release on the website for the public, we found give a significantly longer time. I mean, like the Puy d'Amour. There was 2 hours of chilling time in the recipe that we used.
But they only had 2 hours.
But they only had 2 hours, right? So I think they get a fairly accelerated time frame to do the challenge in.
I think it might have been something like an hour.
Yeah.
Which would have just pushed you if you knew the technique, but because they were working it out and they had to do one and then one and then one and then, which we found was absolutely the way to go. Do not do too many. I think the most I got to was maybe 4 on the go at once, but with one that was just about to come out, 1 or 2 that were just going in, and
and that's the problem as well with the gas ring, is that it is just that, it's a ring, so your heat is in a very concentrated place. It's not going to be even necessarily with that sort of pan where there are indentations on the bottom. Yeah. So I think it probably could have worked better on an electric type of surface.
Yeah, some of the ones we saw were designed for, or at least said they were okay for an induction hob. So maybe it absolutely does work better because you, like say, there's an even spread.
I bet a Japanese tabletop takoyaki grill would be perfect for it, because those balls were exactly the sort of dumpling balls that you have takoyaki in. It's just we had chocolate instead of octopus.
I could see us doing this again, though.
Oh, definitely. I'm already thinking, what else could we put in them?
Yeah. I think the batter was not too complicated to do. And there were some interesting things you could knock up. And once you have the technique, it's not too bad to do it. So.
I think not having an Aeblskiver pan myself, I think I'd be more inclined just to do regular pancakes and then pop the mixture in, the filling in with the pancake, then flip it over and put another dollop of mixture on just to do the same sort of thing, but in a very sort of low budget way. I think for me, they were nice. They were very tasty. Were they tasty enough for me to invest in another piece of kitchen equipment?
And store another piece of kitchen equipment. And
also to go to the lengths of making essentially pancakes that took, I think, probably took me about an hour and a half all that.
At least, yeah.
Probably not.
Do you think another batter would work as well or differently? Does it need something like that slightly floury element to it so it makes like a cake?
I don't know, to be honest. As you know, I did mine with baking margarine just to see if there was a difference, because I actually do use baking margarine in quite a lot of my cooking. Some people have very strong opinions about it, but I find it works quite well in most things. And I wanted to see versus your butter what the difference in taste was. And I think there was a difference actually. I think the butter did come out better. So yeah, I think maybe if I did it again, I would probably use the real deal. But I'm not sure. I'd like to give it a go with just a regular old pancake batter and see if that actually makes a difference. Because the chances of me having buttermilk in my fridge of a Wednesday evening is slim to none, to be fair.
Absolutely. It's not something that's on my regular shopping order.
No. Whereas most people have eggs and flour and milk in their
exactly.
pancakes.
Yeah, I might try that as well, just to see. Maybe that's a Shrove Tuesday. Oh.
You can make it for my birthday breakfast.
Can I?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I will do that thing.
Soon.
and serve it on...
In bed.
Some sort of compote in bed, yeah.
Salted caramel. Salted caramel dip.
Okay. Okay. Anything else we needed to cover on Aeblskiver? I don't think I have any more. Because it wasn't the most complex of recipes, all told.
No, I wish I'd dusted mine with icing sugar a bit more, because actually that instead of the compote, I think is the way forward.
A touch more sweetness.
Yeah, just that little bit of sweetness, and a bit like a donut, really.
Yeah.
The extra sugar just gives it that lift.
Yeah. Yeah, because the cinnamon apple on its own was quite nice. Very tasty.
It was quite nice to have a technical challenge that wasn't actually that technical. There were lots of different component parts, and the technical bit was about the rotation.
Yeah.
It's an unusual cooking method rather than something that was actively difficult.
But it was nice to have something that was accessible to everybody, and you can kind of go, I could make some of those for my family this evening. Whereas, who is actually going to go to the lengths that you would go to make a green cake?
Feed them all with 2 pastries and a creme pan. Yeah. Terrific. Thank you very much for entertaining us for an afternoon and baking with us. And
Thank you very much for coming over.
and thank you for introducing us to Bake Off.
Yeah, Aeblskiver were a lot of fun.
They were. I've really enjoyed thinking about all the alternative fillings we can make. I think Aeblskiver might have to be something that we can do on a not infrequent basis for Sunday morning breakfast.
Okay. I'm quite interested. I think once we're through Bake Off, once we're through the podcast and baking for that, to set aside some time to be like, okay, let's make a large batch of batter or a couple of batches, and then let's do some playing around with it over a couple of days, trying different things.
Cheese and ham.
Well, exactly. Yeah, doing some mix up. I want to get some Biscoff spread. Try putting that in. Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So this week, Torta Settevelli. I'm not sure you're going to make this, are you?
No.
3.5 hours if we're doing it to their time.
Okay,
So probably
5 hours.
Yeah, probably 5-6 hours for us to do it. And it's a cake that serves 12 to 16 people.
We do not need 2 of those in our house.
Shall I do it?
Yes, please. I will be your able taster.
You will indeed. You are
I
very
will
good at that,
execute that duty with gusto.
I am looking forward to it. There is interesting stuff going on in here. I've never done a praline, which I'm looking forward to. I've never done a mirror glaze, and that I'm really quite looking forward to doing. So
cool.
It'd be interesting to do. I'm not totally sure about constructing it.
They seem to do it inside the cake tin.
Yeah, because this needs a 26 round cake tin, 26 centimetre round cake tin.
Do we have one?
I might have one. Is that 9 inches? No, that's 10 inches.
I think we might need a new cake tin.
We might need to get a new cake tin.
We need a bigger boat.
Yeah. And another sugar thermometer. And I really should have bought that when we were doing the jelly, shouldn't I? The fruit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do the tempered chocolate curls.
I don't think you need to.
No, I don't think I need to either. Because the other thing is I do need to practice another cake this weekend. So am I going to make 2 chocolate cakes this weekend? Yeah, probably.
You don't have to practice my birthday cake.
No, but I want to.
Okay. Fair enough. I think we may need to take some cake round to our neighbour Eric.
I think we might need to.
I think Eric might like some chocolate cake.
No, I'm interested to make it. So you will have to think up questions you can ask. And I will try not to tell you too much about the baking process. We have some conversation to have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Next week's the final.
Ooh.
So there was no theme for the final week. And from memory, I think they do tend to do, like, one is a biscuit, one is a cake, one is something more elaborate. So that they do mix up what you're making. We try not to talk about the bakers themselves too much.
Yeah.
And the personalities coming into it. But at this point of the final, I think it is a part of the conversation.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We've got one baker who is really into it and very emotional. One who has talked about having the stamina this week, Ruby, and talked about just wanting to keep her head down and keep going on at it. And we've seen that over a number of weeks. And one who feels like perhaps is not coping with the pressure at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if this was a work of fiction, Rahul's character would have had a bit of an arc by now and started to build some self-confidence. But obviously this is real life.
Yeah.
And actually he's just like freaking out a little bit.
Yeah. And yet despite the fact he doesn't seem to be engaging with the sort of the process of it and the fun of it and the emotion of it, his technical skills are still shining through.
The man has a genius sense for flavour, and he's a very, very good baker.
Yeah,
you know, he's very, very, very good. And, if he wants one, I'm sure there is some form of culinary career available to him.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
he wants one. He's
might
not got a bad job right now. But
Kim Joy, who makes these beautiful, beautiful things, but doesn't shine at technical challenges, and does have a lot of elements to what she does.
I don't look down on her for not liking the technical challenges.
No,
because actually I think it's quite admirable that it seems that she's at her best when she's had the time and put the work in to think through and plan and practice.
Yep.
Because I think those are all really good qualities.
Yeah.
But I mean, what she did, the technical challenge, was clearly good. When she wasn't having a little panic over a chocolate mousse, the rest of it was clearly good enough to get her second.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
partially because other people made something that went wrong on a couple of levels. So
I don't think I don't think that she is actually not good at technical challenges. I think she finds the pressure hard to handle.
Fair. That is a fair comment. And Ruby, who is just now, right, I'm just going to keep going until I can't go anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruby's the sort of person I'd like to work with. I do obviously work with lots of lovely people like that, but she's the sort of person you'd want on your team at work. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any thoughts on what's going to happen in the final?
I think Kim Joy had it right. It's a really, really evenly matched final. I think anything could happen. I think any of them could take it.
Right. Okay. So you don't think the pressure will get to one? Like we've said throughout, Kim Joy has by and large been in the middle, has not had a crisis, but has not had moments of it suddenly all clicked. No, she's had moments where it clicked, but she's not gone either way. Raoul has done some wonderful things, but then has not stepped up from doing wonderful things, and in fact the pressure has gotten to him. And Ruby did struggle initially, but got her head down and has worked at it.
I think I'd like to see Ruby win.
Really? Okay.
But I think any of them could win.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if Rahul can get himself under control, I think he should win.
Okay.
In terms of the flavours and the natural skill that he's got. Yeah. But I think he shoots himself in the foot a little bit by his emotions getting the better of him.
But when it's really counted the last 2 weeks, he has not done as well as he should.
No.
So I think on average, you can see people who have settled into it, the other two ladies, who have done very well.
So who do you think? What are your thoughts?
I feel like I want Kim Joy to win it because she seems like someone we'd really get on with. So I do have a sort of emotive response to Kim Joy.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with you. I'm comfortable with any of them winning it. I think on personality, it's probably Ruby. Because you want to see a winner who really enjoys it, gets something out of it, and feels like, yes, I've gone in and done a triumph by doing this thing. I think I worry about Raoul as winner going, okay, well, that was good. That was a fun 12 weeks. Let's see what hardships I've got coming up in life since.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he wouldn't be. I think that's just because what we're being edited to see.
I agree.
Gives a very specific side of him.
It will be interesting to see him on Extra Slice and see actually, well, I mean, that's edited too.
Absolutely.
But I think you get a bit more of their natural personality on that.
Yeah. But no, I think anyone will be a worthy winner at this point. I think even Manon and Bryony and John and Dan, the people in the second half of the series, any of them would have been good winners.
Oh, I would have liked to see Manon do this week's.
Yeah, but
c'est la vie.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so final next week.
Yep.
It's the final. Final bake-off. Final bake-off.
Final bake-off. Final.
Join us. We will be getting an episode up and out the morning after it. We are fully intending to be watching this one live.
Final.
Because in fact, we didn't mention that at the beginning. Today was the first time we got to watch the episode live as it aired.
Woo!
Every other week we've had to watch it back, having recorded it at least an hour or two later. So it's quite nice to sit down and do that and engage with other people.
Absolutely.
Great. Join us next week for the final.
Final.